This week's channel message from the angels is a very reassuring one, talking about the times that we are going through right now as part of this great shift in consciousness. They're talking about the fact that the institutions of our world that we feel reliant upon are actually instrumental in the repression of the divine within humanity. So it's an important message. It's a beautiful message, and above all, it's very reassuring, letting us know that we are on a path for our highest and best. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so grateful you are here. I also want to welcome those of you who are new. If you haven't been here before, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by going into a deep meditation or trance meditative state. From there, I raise my awareness as high as I can go, and I go a little higher. I connect at the angelic realm, and then messages and information comes through, which I share here for you guys on YouTube. So, like I said, this message is, and they have been giving us a play-by-play, week by week. They've been walking us through where we are at the moment with this great shift in consciousness, letting us know, help us to understand what's happening inside of us. And this message, I think, is that in spades. It's talking about how we are processing the deep knowing we all have on some level. We all know what's coming. There's a feeling. It's sort of like the way the birds take flight before an earthquake. There's something in our physical bodies that we are all aware that there has been this increasing, like the escalation of chaos on the planet. And there's somewhere deep down the awareness that we are in the process of a shift that is increasing, right? That it's speeding up. So, and so the message speaks to how we can separate from that being locked into the physical experience of this and go into the spiritual experience of it. So I also want to let you know, for those of you who are part of the peace bathing program, don't forget that we have our session this Sunday, 10 a.m. And for those of you who do not yet have a regular healing modality, regular healing process for yourself, if you'd like to join us, it's not too late. I will put the link down below in the description box, where you can find out information about it. Peace bathing is a monthly channel healing that we do with the angels, that we do as a group. It's a beautiful experience, and very, very powerful healings come through. So if you'd like to be part of it, if you're not already, the link is down below. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoy the message. Okay, so here's what they say. We form the words, the sounds of our voice. We speak into the nothingness of your own expectations. We wish to drown out the calling tones of that which is apprehensive, of that which calms the mind but alerts the body, that which grounds out the solace of spirit. We speak into the understanding of your soul and self that there is now upon the horizon such events as you can feel in your torso, in your legs, in the physical substance that you breathe. The sense is in the air of some calamity that's near. The sense of this permeates the suggestive. It lingers in the mouth and in the ears. It leaves a ringing. We wish to speak into the reality that's coming, to say into the body, into the calming down of the sensory, that you are here, heralded to this time on purpose. Fear nothing. Know that devastation can come and be near, and you are all right. Know that in times coming, all that you must understand is your connection through self to one, to God, the divine. Know and understand you are whole, not two halves any longer. Know that you are guided, that you are brought forward through this time of chaos into the time of surrender that is happening internal to spirit, within the self. The knowledge of this, it sits within the self. But it cannot arouse a sense or digestion of this reality and truth. It lingers, however, longer, and awaits for the arousal of spirit within you. It waits for the suggestive to calm, for the sense of soul and self to separate from the physical, from the vibration of that which has internally been digesting the course of fear. We wish to settle upon yourselves the knowledge that all is well, that all will be well, that in these coming times we herald this change for the benefit of yourselves. You call this in to be transported forward beyond the state in which you dwell, in which you house within the body such disquiet, such anger, the bridling fear which drives you. To capitulate no more to these internal drives and suggestions, but to be lifted into the beyond notion of your own capacity and divinity. This, we suggest, is not far, is yet near, nearer still. But you must pass through the chaotic transport of these coming happenings. You must pass through the digestion of these experiences. We will come and remind the self of what is true within you. We say to know, and you are feeling within the body the tremors that you suspect. There is an anguish yet to be revealed within the earth herself, the crust that is moving. And yes, among the political influences that yearn for exception from these times, that yearn to stay the same, that try above all might to stay as they are, remain in absolution from that which calls you home. We speak to this and say they cannot. They cannot remain as they are. They cannot form themselves renewable into these coming times. They are now the focus of the change that is happening. There will be the coming transmutation of all that holds you still, of all that dwells in the realm of the invisible power. Short and inextinguishable has been the reign of these institutions that feel so enduring, that feel so real and oppressive. They are but minute in the presence of the eternal, and yet they feel as though they exist always in the realm of humankind. But to know thyself as eternal, to know thyself as of one mind, and to see within the construct of these structures a housing which deprives you of a livelihood and a living, of a sense of yourselves as equal, of a sense of life as bountiful. Recognize that the time is calling you homeward into a space of acceptance of a reality that is more balanced, that will gift unto you prosperous times on the horizon, but it cannot be found within the structures that hold things in place. The reality and its paces must change. This is happening. We discuss this. We describe this, the context of what is now occurring. There is all around the selves, the valuable becomes devalued. The sense of what is worthful becomes worthless. Things that have been trusted upon become extinguished. And this can be concerning. But remind the selves that value placed here was never value at all. Remind the selves that it is only the archaic remnant of an idea long time its passing. It is the sense of yourselves in alignment with what is physical, without the divine nature. It is the sense of the selves as physically reliant, as unstable without these structures, as unstable without these guiding instruments which confine you. We say the time has come to reveal them as archaic, as undoing the divinity within you, as withholding you from the torrent of grace which would refine the blessings of your existence. We say unto you, the structures we speak of, political, financial, the burdensome housings of the educational systems, the ways of being in meaningful work and workforce, there has been an extinguishing of that which is grace within the context of what is known among humanity. There has been an extinguishing of that which is life force, that which is energy that comes from the cosmos, that which comes from the divine. The sense of selves is aligned fully, wholly with that which is physical. It lingers in the construct of these times, and it stays behind as you leave it. You become one with the memory and the knowing of that time and leave it as though through purging. It becomes revealed in its folly as an institution to be regarded as termed and passing. We wish to be instrumental in the guidance of these times coming, to guide you the favors and the blessings to which we are capable, to serve you in the announcing of these times and in the blessings that are coming, to hold you within the construct of what is sacred, of what is divine, to hold you within the power of your own light, No, you are there already. And these institutions which corral you, which hold you, you have no need of. In the releasing, what comes to bind you no more shall be remembered, drifted apart, left behind, and forgotten. Once the name of these times is given, you will have an arrival of sorts, a sense of selves as observably different, a sense of selves as having come to terms with what was lost and what has now been found again. And the reliance upon self and truth becomes paramount. This will forgive that loss, forgive what is past, and drift into the future in a state of graceful transference. Right? So what did I tell you? Super cool. Super, super cool message. And yeah, it is about what's coming, but it's really breaking it down to say like that I would sort of understand this message to say, number one, we have anxiety and fear that is in the physical, that's in the physical body. And number one, they're saying they're trying to address that they're trying to pull us out of that physical, the attunement to sort of, it's almost like the way you see birds fly before an earthquake hits, right? It's like we have that body, the physical human body, which is attuned to, oh my gosh, I feel something, something's coming. They're saying we feel it in the torso and the legs, like the physical body knows, and we are super tied to the body and to the physical. And then they go from there, they say, okay, so we have been processing our reality through this belief that we are dependent on physical structures, that the world, that it's like we have, and through the evolution of where we've come and through the process of creating our civilization, we've created these institutions that have become so bloated and so big, and we are all locked into the belief systems that we need them. That it's like that we need the banks, that we need, our 401k, that we need, to go to grad school, that we need all these things in order to survive, right? Like it's this survival consciousness that it's all about the physical and that we need these structures to protect us. And the angels are saying that is an old idea that needs to be let go of, which is hard for us to imagine because we're like, well, we're still in it. But it's like with everything in spirit that I've encountered, it's like we have to take the plunge and let go of the idea before we can find the energy to then embrace the new, to grow. It takes energy for us to raise our frequency. We have to find energy in order to do it. So it's like letting go of these old ideas, these old constructs. And they're saying that this shift is about that. And so they're kind of this anyway. So it's a really, really amazing, amazing message. And they go on to say that we don't need it, that we will move into a different way of being. And then we'll look back on this time and we'll be like, can you believe we fell for that? Like we will be so clear in seeing it. It'll be like, how did we not see that? Right? So it's a super, super cool message. So you're saying my body is still is on fire. What was that? I have been in this now for the last 3 years. In the past 3 months, my body has been it's a bit on fire. That's super interesting. Super interesting. You're really tuning into it. John is saying happy Friday. Thank you so much, John. Great to have you here. And I'm so glad. It was great to meet you at the summit. And Candace saying so amazing and comforting. Yes. Yeah. I really found this one to be really comforting. Spot on message for me. Thank you. You're so welcome. I needed it at this time. Yeah. I think they know when we need it, Sherry. Hey, Sherry says every part of the message speaks intensely to every cell of my being. And then Candace says time for thriving. I love it. All right. So do you guys want to break it down? So let's talk about what this means. And I think that it's pretty clear, but there's some places here I think we can just really bring it home. So the first paragraph, I think this is interesting. They say we form the words, the sounds of our voice. We speak into the nothingness of your own expectations. And I love that because they constantly talk to us about releasing our expectations, right? That we're meant to flow and that when we have expectations, we confine our future to what we've already known. And they're saying what's coming is so beyond our expectations that if we come in with expectations, we limit what we will perceive. And so they're constantly on us about like try our best to be open and to release our expectations. And so here that nothingness of our own expectations, to me, that is like like we might be entering into these times with fear, right? With imaginings about like, oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible and I better prepare for this or that. And they're saying those are all nothingness because there's no way we can know what's coming. We can't anticipate it. We can't expect it. And so they're saying that those expectations are, in the end, they are just like nothingnesses. And so they're saying like, let them go. They don't turn out to be true. Whatever we think is probably not going to happen. So they said, we wish to drown out the calling tones of that which is apprehensive, of that which calms the mind but alerts the body. So here they're addressing, when they say that which calms the mind but alerts the body, these are the ways we try to cope, right? Our physical ways of coping. So that might be through control, where we try to exert control in our environment in order to calm our mind, but that in fact alerts the body, alerts the nervous system, right? It puts us on alert where we think, oh my gosh, I have to take action. I have to do something. So you get into this heightened state of anxiety in an attempt to calm your mind. So that they're saying they're trying to release us. They're drown out the calling tones of that which is apprehensive. They're trying to drown it out here. They're saying that which grounds out the solace of spirit. So love that. Grounds out the solace of spirit. In other words, we're so deep into the experience of the body on this. When we get into our fear state, we get so activated physically, grounding out into the body, that we drown out the solace of spirit. They say, we speak into the understanding of your soul and self, that there is now upon the horizon such events as you can feel in your torso and your legs, in the physical substance that you breathe. So it's like it's everywhere around us, right? The sense is in the air of some calamity that's near. So they're acknowledging like, yep, you are tuning into something. You know it's coming. It's showing up in your dreams. It's showing up in the low level or maybe high level anxiety, right? That we are aware that there's change on the horizon. They go on to say, the sense of this permeates the suggestive. Super interesting. So this refers to the idea that we are of one mind, one consciousness, and the sense of this is being permeated by the entire organism that is humanity, and then it permeates the suggestive, which means it takes the form of all of these random fears that people might be having. So it can show up, I call them safety fears. When you're afraid of something you can't identify or you don't want to identify, often you will express it as fear or anger towards something else. So we get activated like road rage, right? For like, why is somebody having road rage? It might be because they are feeling this fear, like why all the crazy violence, right? Why all the crazy mass violence experiences that we're having? So those people may be tuning in to the suggestive, to the feeling like, oh my gosh, there's some calamity on the future, which they can't identify. And so then it expresses out in some other way. Like we think it's, I'm really upset about the fact that, whatever, some bad thing that my computer isn't working right or whatever it is. And I get really unusually upset about that because we can feel it and it's physical and it's real. But what we're not acknowledging is that there's an intangible something we can't name where the fear really sits. And so I think that's what they're identifying here, is that it's in the suggestive, that all of humanity is activated and they're expressing this fear in all these other crazy ways. So they're kind of naming, why is it that there's so much chaos, not only like natural disaster chaos every 5 minutes, it seems, but then also among people, there's chaos. So then they go on to say, it lingers in the mouth and the ears. It leaves a ringing. We wish to speak into the reality that's coming, to say into the body, into the calming down of the sensory. So they're saying in this message, they're trying to calm down the physical body into the senses, that you are here, heralded to this time on purpose. Fear nothing. Know that devastation can come and be near, and you are all right. So they're saying that it's that, like they keep telling us that not everything happens everywhere. That yes, they've talked about all these things happening in the earth in general. There's lots of turmoil. And then we're saying we have to go through this because this is part of the shift. We have to break down the things that are holding us in place. And part of that is going to be chaotic. And there will be places in which it affects us, but not everything will happen where you are. It will be some things happen here and happen there and happen. If you combine them all in total, it will look like total chaos. But in your individual experience, you may be living in your exact same place and be like, yeah, my daily life hasn't changed that much. And, or maybe it's changed in some way, but not in every way. So they go on to say, know that in times coming, all that you must understand is your connection through self to one, to God, the divine. I love that. Know and understand you are whole, not two halves any longer. So this is really, really important, I think, that here they're referencing, and remember the angels kind of are loosey-goosey with time because they see everything as one time. So, but here they're referencing in times coming. They're saying in the future, what we will feel is that what we will experience in the future is that all that will be important is our connection through ourselves to God and to the divine. So, and they're being very specific there. It's not connection through someone else to the divine. It's our own personal connection. They also are saying in times coming that we will be whole, not two halves any longer. So this is referencing that we are coming from a time of being where we are imbalanced, where we have more of one energy in terms of yin yang, divine masculine, divine feminine. This is not to mean male and female, but the two qualities of energy, which are often called yin or yang, or divine feminine, divine masculine, that we are imbalanced. And they're talking about here that those are two halves of us, right, that are kind of compete or fight with one another at the moment, and that those will come together and we will be unified. And that is what this whole shift is about becoming balanced, right? Coming back into balance. So they're saying in the future, in times coming, that we will that we will understand that we are whole, not two halves any longer. Know that you are guided, that you are brought forward through this time of chaos into the time of surrender that is happening internal to spirit within the self. The knowledge of this sits within the self. So in other words, the surrender is to our own internal spirit within the self, right? That's what we're surrendering to. The knowledge of this sits within the self. So deep down, we know it already. All right, they go on to say, but it cannot arouse a sense or a digestion of this reality and truth. So in other words, the knowledge of this, even though it's down deep and you know it deep down, it cannot arouse a sense or digestion of this reality and truth. We are at the moment overwhelmed with the physical, is what they're saying. So even though we know it deep down, we are overwhelmed with our physical experience. They're saying it lingers, however, longer, and waits for the arousal of spirit within you. So this knowledge is waiting for the moment that we get clear of that physical sensation, of that sense of being locked into our physical experience. They say it waits for the suggestive to calm, for the sense of soul and self to separate from the physical, from the vibration of that which has internally been digesting the course of fear. And this is not to say that in the future that we won't be grounded in the body, because we will. It's just that idea of who's driving the bus, right? Is our physical fear, and they're saying that up until now that we have been driven by our fear, by anger, by all these energies, that move through us, by processing all the hurt that we hold inside of us, right? And they're saying in the future that we will be able to be clear of that. And they've referenced that in several messages in the past, that we will no longer hold karma in the same way. So this idea of this knowledge that the self holds, that this is all of who we really are, of our connection to our higher self, of our connection, our internal spirit. They're saying it's waiting until the moment that we get separated from that physical experience of fear, from the vibration. For the sense of soul and self to separate from the physical, from the vibration of that which has internally been digesting the course of fear. So we're trying to get clear of that so that we can get back to this knowledge and connection to ourselves. It's really beautifully put. We hear that a lot, but I feel like here they're saying it concisely and clearly, but also completely, like really kind of filling in the blanks and giving us a greater sense of what they're trying to say. And you're saying, Rebecca says, we actually have to surf the ambiguity. Yes, 100%. Awesomely said. Mike says, luckily for me, when I let go of my claim of the mind as my own, all mindfulness of the world left me with all its intensity, leaving with me the body awareness and how it is coping with transition. Oh, that's super interesting. Hey, Jean, great to see you. She says the angels are loosey-goosey. Did I say that? That sounds like me. All right. So they go on to the next paragraph. They say, okay, we wish to settle upon yourselves the knowledge that all is well. And I like that they're saying it's to settle. They're really trying to settle our nerves, settle the physical fear that's kind of as we are and cannot help but be connected to, we're trying to connect to the all, to everyone, right? To the oneness. But in that oneness right now, there's all this fear, right? All this in this suggestive, they're saying it's sort of like in our suggestive mind, there's all this chaos. And so it's very hard to to separate that out and to not be affected by it. So they're saying they're trying to settle that, to settle upon yourselves the knowledge that all is well, that all will be well, that in these coming times we herald this change for the benefit of yourselves. You call this in to be transported forward beyond the state in which you dwell, in which you house within the body such disquiet, such anger, the bridling fear which drives you, to capitulate no more to these internal drives and suggestions, but to be lifted into the beyond notion of your own capacity and divinity. So they're just really reassuring us here that this is who we really are, right? They go on to say, this, we suggest, is not far, is yet near, nearer still. But you must pass through the chaotic transportation of these coming happenings. And I love that they don't call them coming events. They call them coming chaotic transportation, which is so fitting, right? Because they're really saying there is a point to all of this, that we have to go through this because going through it transports us, that we can't get there without going through it, that the release of all these activates us in some way. It releases us in some way, and it's true that any healing we do is our own choice. That we only heal, like, yes, you can have an amazing healer, but at the end of the day, it is by our agreement, by our willingness, our ability to release. The healer facilitates, right? The healer helps us. They show us the way. They create the opportunity for us to let go. But it is us at the end of the day that lets go. And so we have to be changed by this process. And the only way to be changed is to go through something. So we don't change willingly. Like humans, we are, you guys know this, like we are like, ooh, where's my safe spot? I want to go comfort seeking, right? Where's my pint of ice cream? And we need something chaotic to transport us into the next, to change us. We need to be changed. So there's something that will occur, right? These events and multiple events, and there's these ways of light, which they've described, which will change, which will help us create the opportunity for us to be changed, to change from within, to create an opening for us to allow ourselves to change. It's a chaotic transportation of these coming happenings. You must pass through the digestion of these experiences. So it's really us processing it, right? We have to process. We will come and remind the self of what is true within you. So they're saying we're never going to do this alone, that they're going to be there in every moment reminding us this is what is true about ourselves. They go on to say, we say to know, and you are feeling within the body, the tremors that you suspect. There is an anguish yet to be revealed within the earth herself, the crust that is moving. So this is, they're referring to the earth rift, which we have had messages in the past about. There's a great big earth event that will come, and it's going to be with a sound that will be heard around the world. And so that's going to be a very significant event, and it will definitely stir things up. There's lots of messages about that we've received, and you guys are aware of. And if you haven't, you can search back and see. There's the first one was called the Earth Rift, and there's been several since then that reference it. So, and they're saying that we feel these within the body. And then they go on to say, and yes, among the political influences that yearn for exception from these times, I think that's interesting, that yearn to stay the same. So in other words, those who hold the power are trying very, very hard to hang on to that power. They say that yearn to stay the same, that try above all might. I love that. Above all the might of the divine, right? They try above all might to stay as they are and remain in absolution from that which calls you home. So they're trying to avoid, basically, to stay. They're trying to stay above the will of the divine, or what's happening at the divine, the energy of the divine, and they're trying to be released from the guilt of what they've created, which has been a confinement of humanity, right? So it's super interesting. So they're trying to remain in absolution. Absolution means a release from guilt, right? From that which calls you home. We speak to this and say they cannot. So they cannot stay as they are. They cannot remain as they are. They cannot form themselves renewable into these coming times. In other words, they won't be able to regroup and come again after all this happens. They say they are now the focus of the change that is happening. Boom, right there. So that is really important. So the fall of these institutions, of all the institutions which are holding us in place, they are now, at this moment, the focus of the change that is happening. So that to me says this is like the thing that is coming next is the fall of these institutions, or the change, the transference, so major shifts with, as they said, And I think it's in the next paragraph, but it's political, it is education, it's banking, it's all of it, right? And you're saying, challenging, John says, challenging to always let go without a new clear path in front of me. Isn't that true? Yeah. And Rebecca said, I'm really resonating with all these digesting metaphors. It helps, And they talked about a lot digesting earlier about what it is to be physical. And so there's a message from them about what the earth is. And in it, they talk about how she understands us, and it's through digestion. So interesting that this whole message is about being physical, about our connection to the physical. And they use that term again about digesting, because it's our connection to how we process things at a physical level. Yeah. And then Mike says, it's like it's my mind, and I can do what I like, as opposed to that it's our mind that we all share. Yeah, very much so. All right. So they go on to say, there will be the coming transmutation of all that holds you still, of all that dwells in the realm of the invisible power. So transmutation, I really like that. So because it is an energy, everything is an energy. So it is about a shift, a change in all of these things. So will they be destroyed? We know that they cannot reform in the same way. That's what they're saying here. So, and they will be transmuted into something different, right? Of all that dwells within the realm of the invisible power. That to me is a super interesting phrase. And I think what they're referring to here is like all the forces that are working behind the scenes that are not always working in our best interest, right? There's the visible power, which are the institutions that we agree to. And then there's the invisible power, which are the things that operate, that influence us, that we do not agree to, that are operating beyond our consent. And that's the piece of this that is not okay, right? This is supposed to be a planet of free will. So that's the invisible, that dwell within the realm of the invisible power. And so they go on to say, short and indistinguishable has been the reign of these institutions that feel so enduring. So in other words, they're saying, yeah, we feel like these are so powerful. These the banking systems, the political systems, think of the political families and the, dynasties that are like around the world. There are families like this that have a grip on control all over, in lots of different countries have these kind of political dynasties. And they said they feel so enduring, but they're saying, you know what? And in fact, they are short. They said they feel so real and oppressive. They are but minute in the presence of the eternal. So in other words, we may think of them as being forever and ever and ever, but in reality, it's like they are a blip, just a blip that they've been around. And they say in the presence of the eternal, and yet they feel as though they exist always in the realm of humankind. But to know thyself as eternal, to know thyself as of one mind, and to see within the construct of these structures a housing which deprives you of a livelihood and living, of a sense of yourselves as equal, of a sense of life as bountiful. So this is really, they're talking about that we will come to an awareness of what we have been unknowingly subscribing to and participating in, which has been a deprivation of our divine experience here on the planet. And so this is like by having them fall apart and having us open to this new way of doing. If we can let go of our fear of them falling apart, of the belief that we need them, that's the key. We have to let go of the belief that we need them, and open up to this possibility that maybe they haven't been helping us at all. They are only telling us. It's sort of like what do they call that? Extortion. When like there's bad guys that come along they're like, imagine the poor shopkeeper and the bad guy that comes in and says, you need our protection. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. It's like, you really need to have a 401k or you will be left homeless and poor in your old age, And it's like, well, what if all that whole concept didn't exist? What if that whole concept of the way that we have been bound to provide for ourselves, like not that we won't need to provide for ourselves, we won't need to contribute, because more than ever, I think we will need to, but maybe not in the same terms, not in the same way. So yeah, it's hard to wrap our head around, and I think that's why they say don't. They say don't try to imagine it, because our expectations will be false. We can't expect it. And you're saying totally extortion. Yeah, right. And Dean is saying, perhaps we will witness others' road rage during the time of chaotic transportation. I think we will witness a lot of stuff, because when people can't process things, they project their fear of what they can't name onto things they can name. So I think it'll show up in all kinds of crazy ways. Yeah, I do. All right. So they go on to say, recognize that the time is calling you homeward into a space. And I like that they're saying, like, this is the enduring. This reality is the enduring. This time period in which we've been going through these crazy confinements and these structures which hold us in place, are saying that's a blip. The reality is you as eternal. That's home. That's the always. That we're just going back to home. We're going back to what's normal for us. Right? So into a space of acceptance of a reality that is more balanced, that will gift unto you prosperous times on the horizon. And prosperous means all kinds of things, but it's like what is meaningful, what really matters, but it cannot be found within the structures that hold things in place. This reality and its paces must change. This is happening. We discuss this. We describe this, the context of what is now occurring. So this is what we're going through right now. There is all around the selves, and this is how they describe it in more detail. They say the valuable becomes devalued. The sense of what is worthful becomes worthless. Things that have been trusted upon become extinguished. So they're saying this is not gentle, right? This means really letting go of the things that we've really gotten wrapped up in as being important, and recognizing, starting to see they're not important. So we have to release a lot of that. And when you think about that in that sense of like clinging and hoarding and holding onto the things that we think make us safe, how much fear is in that. And we have to let go of the fear. And we have to learn to move and flow. And it is not easy. I know it's not. Like, I know it's really hard because there is the feeling of, if I let go, then what will I have? What if it's not there? What if I let go and nothing catches me? So I get it. It's not easy. And we each have to kind of work through our own process of coming to terms with it. And they will help us, right? And one way or another, we will be guided through it. It will happen, and we will have the opportunity to let go. So they go on to say, and this can be, things that have been trusted become extinguished, and this can be concerning. But remind the selves that value placed here was never value at all. Remind the selves that it is only the archaic remnants of an idea. Archaic means old-fashioned, like really old, like really, really, really old, like time to let it go, right? Long time it's passing. It is the sense of yourselves in alignment with what is physical without the divine nature. So this is huge. It is a sense of the selves as physically reliant, as unstable without these structures. In other words, it's the belief that we can't exist without these things. And that is so true. Like, when you say that and you just hear it, you're like, of course that's true. But think about it in our life. How much we believe that if we do not have a 401k or a pension plan or a something, that we will be in big trouble. And we believe that. And it has been true up until now because we have been living within these structures. But is it possible that that could change? And that's what they're saying. And I have a hard time imagining it. I imagine we all do. But let's just entertain that as a possibility. Let's entertain that. Let's become open to that possibility and what it could be. And then maybe in the suggestive that they're talking about, in the suggestive of the collective, something new will emerge that we have not yet seen. And I don't mean that this is like a return to communism or something like that. That is yet another one of these structures. Anything that has been created in the last 2,000 years is part of this system that's falling apart. So it's not that. It's something different. It's a new way of being that we have not experienced as a collective in a lot of years, like gazillions of years. Not gazillions, but thousands and thousands of years. So, and then they go on to say so they're saying that we believe we're unstable without these structures, as unstable without these guiding instruments which confine you, right? We say the time has come to reveal them as archaic, as undoing the divinity within you, as withholding you from the torrent of grace, which would refine the blessings of your existence. So it's not about finding a new way of government. It's not about turning to socialism or communism or some other form that is just as binding. It's not about giving more and more and more power to government in order to redistribute or anything like that. It's about becoming different as a species. It's about learning to be balanced and not looking for government to play the role of the divine. It's about learning to, and they're saying that all of these structures undo the divine within us, right? They withhold from us the torrent of grace, which would refine the blessings of our existence. So it's about being in flow. And I know that it's the only way we can relate to this, I think, is in the moments when we fall into the lap of like serendipity, when we fall into it, when it just happens to us and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that amazing thing happened. I will tell you, amazing story, talk about serendipity. So one of the people who came to the event came on a scholarship ticket. So people who couldn't afford to come, anybody that asked for it received a scholarship. And one of those people reached out and told me, so anyway, she got the scholarship. She needed to travel to come to the event. And magically she found like some frequent flyer miles or something that she had forgotten all about. And so she got a ticket for free. And she had a friend who lent her a condo to stay in. So she had a free place to stay. So then she comes to the event and she asked me, she's like, oh, I really don't think I should be put in the drawing because I was on a scholarship ticket and it's not fair. And I was like, there's no way. She traveled all the way here. You know what I mean? She went through all that effort to get here. Of course, she's going in the drawing. So she gets put in the drawing and she won one of the giant baskets from this. I'm talking about the Spirit Summit that happened this past weekend. And she got one of the baskets that has like all these beautiful sessions. So now she's getting all this beautiful healing. I mean, it's like, talk about serendipity of all the things that aligned to get this person to work with, and the healer that she's working with, that she won the session with, sent me a message saying, I cannot believe this, how everything aligned to put this person in my path. So now this woman, Molly Grove, who's a beautiful healer, if you haven't ever talked to her, she is now having sessions with this woman, and I'm sure they were meant to meet, you know. And look at all of the way that everything lined up to make it possible. That is working in the flow of the divine. And so like that is like the torrent of blessings. Like, why not expect that? You know, why not let that happen? Does that have to be so impossible? Like here it happened. If it happened for her, why can't that just be the way things are? And that doesn't mean that everything has to be free, that in general, we have an exchange of value and that creates balance and harmony. And there has to be that exchange where everybody gets filled. But this was the movement of obstacles to get this person in the place she needed to be. Like, how cool is that? You know? And Shelly Schaefer saying, I met her and she was at the summit. She was so very lovely, right? I know. How cool is that? Right? Hey, Sarah, great to see you. Thank you for joining today. And Maureen says, love this message. Yep, bye-bye to the old ways. Right? Mike is saying, all institutions become a prison in where we are boxed into. Do you know, I think it has been that way. And I don't think it has to be that way in the future. Like, I think in the future, what we are looking for is like, we need the beauty of structures that come from the expression of the divine masculine in order to hold and grow anything. Like, without the structure of the physical body, without the bones, we would be a pile of jelly. Like we need structure in order to grow anything, but that structure has to be aligned with the feminine. There has to be balance. So we need to rethink what are institutions. What is an institution? It has to support humanity, right? It can't be something that's built for the benefit of one. It has to be built for the benefit of all. And that's the difference. And so it's really, we have to break, and I think we can't get there as long as we have to really break down what's there, because those structures are so entrenched, right? And those power systems are so desperate to hang on, and they control so much that there's no way to break free of them unless they fall down. So I think that's the reason, if that makes sense. Yeah, to me, that's how I see it. And you're saying beautiful story of synchronicity. I know, Andre, isn't it cool? And Sherry says serendipity story, so very cool. Yep, systems that work for the all. That is what we're looking for. So, and it's really, really beautiful. One of the messages that my son got at the summit was, because he was there and he had sessions with different healers, and one of them told them that he can play a role in finding out how young people find opportunity in this new evolution that we're heading into. Like how is it that we find equality where young people are brought into a space where they feel that this world is for them too. Like right now, I think it's really hard for young people coming in. There's just a sense that the train has left the station and they're kind of left wondering, like, where's my step forward? Like, how do I have the blessings of a life? Like, how do I afford to have children? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So he came away just all fired up with ideas, and yeah, so it'll take some real creative openness to let these new inspirations in. And letting go of expectations. We cannot start from where we've been. Yeah. I love that there's actually a book about that. Anyways, long story. Let's move on. And they say, we say unto you, the structures we speak of, political, financial, the burdensome housings of the educational systems. So they're saying not education in general, but the burdensome housings of the education, the way it is right now, right? That's a burden. And the ways of being in meaningful work and workforce. There has been an extinguishing of that which is grace within the context of what is known among humanity. So it's literally like the gradual crushing down that is extinguishing grace within these structures. Right? They say there has been an extinguishing of that which is life force. So work has become drudgery. Like it's not meant to be that way. We're meant to love our work. We're meant to come into work and see work as an expression of ourselves, not as something that's like the 9 to 5, the slavery. That it's not meant to be that. It's meant to be joyful. Not always, right? Work is hard, but it's meant to be an expression of us. It's meant to be something that we feel passionate about. They say that which is energy it's been an extinguishing of that which is life force, that which is energy that comes from the cosmos, that which comes from the divine. So of course that has to be righted, right? Of course that can't endure. They go on to say the sense of selves is aligned fully, wholly with that which is physical. Wow. So where we are right now is we are really entrenched in the physical experience, which is rooted in fear of survival, right? Fear for survival. They go on to say, it lingers in the construct of these times and it stays behind as you leave it. You become one with the memory and the knowing of that time. So in other words, we move from being in it to moving into the memory of it. So we separate from it and it becomes a memory as we leave it. You become one with the memory and the knowing of that time and leave it as though through purging. So it's not about just being changed instantaneously. It's about processing, understanding, learning, digesting again, right? It's really that we have to go through it. We can't go around it. We have to experience the letting go of it so that we can look back on it and be like, oh my gosh, like look what we were all part of. Look what we experienced. Look what happened. And what do we learn from that? Yeah. It becomes revealed in its folly as an institution to be regarded as termed and passing. So termed is like to have a term, like have an ending. It's meant to have an ending and passing, so it's done. We wish to be instrumental in the guidance of these times coming, to guide you the favors and the blessings to which we are capable. So they're saying the angels are going to be there through this whole process. And I know people who have specifically had dreams showing, and the angels have said that we will be able to see them, right? That the angels will be super, super, super available to us. And I think this comes from us raising our frequency, that we become, our vibration becomes higher, and we are able, when we get to that slightly less dense vibration, then all of a sudden we have the capacity to see them. Yeah. To serve you in the announcing of these times, in the blessings that are coming, to hold you within the construct of what is sacred, of what is divine, to hold you within the power of your own light. No, you are there already. And these institutions which corral you, which hold you, you have no need of. So they're saying we can already step into this. Yeah. In the releasing, what comes to bind you no more shall be remembered, drifted apart, left behind, and forgotten. So it's like process it, like remember it, process it, think through it, then slowly drift apart from it, leave it behind, and forget it. Right? Once the names of these times is given, you will have an arrival of sorts. And I love that. So it's like when you look back on something, that's when we name it. So it's like how we name a generation or how we name an era. Once we move away from it, we understand it enough that we can give it a name. And so they say once we get to that place where we understand it well enough to name it, then we will have an arrival of sorts. We have to understand it first, process it, understand it, then we have an arrival. A sense of selves as observably different. A sense of selves as having come to terms with what was lost and what has now been found again. And the reliance upon self and truth becomes paramount. This will forgive that loss, forgive what is past, and drift into the future in a state of graceful transference. In other words, we get to a place where we are no longer thinking of ourselves as dependent on those institutions, but we recognize that it is the internal, the divinity that's inside of us is what we rely on, right? And our truth, the truth, when they say truth, they mean our soul truth, like the truth of who we really are. It's you, your expression of soul that you're holding right now, that becomes paramount. And they said this will forgive that loss. So becoming this allows us to reflect back on where we've come from and to forgive everything that we've been through, right? And everything that we've learned. And they say, forgive what is past and drift into the future in a state of graceful transference. So yeah. So cool, you guys. I know, right? Like every time I think, oh, last message was so great, this one can't possibly be as good. And it's like better. How does that even happen? Yeah. And you're saying, for me, the young people are the key and the hope of us who are old. I think it has to be that way. They are more flexible. They don't know all the ways of being reliant on these structures. So yeah, I think it will be amazing to see what solutions they come up with. And I cannot wait. Yeah. And you're saying so beautiful and deep, these words. I thank you, Sherry. Yeah, I love this message. Teresa says, do you think this has something to do with the ETs coming and showing us something different? I'm having a hard time imagining. I know, Teresa, it is hard to figure out like how will we have these changes. And the angels talked about before that there will be help that comes. Like I have a feeling that after some of these major like physical changes that have like earth rift, some of these things that can be destructive, that we might get help from off planet. I think it may be during those times, that's my guess, that they would come to try to help us, to show us maybe new technologies or new ways of being. That's very possible. But I also think that the new ways of being in terms of how we govern ourselves, how we work as a community, how do we build a new society? I think that will come from inside of us. So I think that will be the thing that inside of us, but through our connection to the divine, So yeah, so I think that'll be something. We'll see how it evolves. Yeah. Beautiful. You're so welcome, Mike. Thanks. You're saying so extraordinary. Yeah, it's just super, super cool message. All right, you guys. Reminder, by the way, if you are in our peace bathing group, don't forget that Sunday is our session, Sunday 10 a.m. Pacific. So I'm very excited to see you there. I love these sessions. The energy that we hold as a group is powerful, and the healings are so beautiful. So if you are not yet part of peace bathing and want to join, it's not too late. I will put the link in the description box. All right, you guys, and in the comments. Hey, Amina, great to see you. Greetings from London. Inside of us lie the answers. Yes, exactly. All right. Okay, you guys, lots of love. Sending you best wishes for a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next Friday live.